Madagascar has extended a nighttime curfew in the capital, Antananarivo, and 4 other cities. Residents are taking stock of the damage after a day of protests that left several people dead. On Thursday, thousands of mostly young people answered social media calls to demonstrate against frequent power cuts and water shortages on the island that's located off the southeastern coast of Africa. Banks and shops were looted, and the homes of several pro-government lawmakers set on fire. Security forces used rubber bullets and tear gas to disperse the crowds. For more, we can now speak to Pulitzer Prize-winning Malagasy journalist Gaëlle Borja. She works for various international news outlets and joins us now from Madagascar. Welcome to our program. It's great to have you on the show, Gaëlle. How would you describe the atmosphere in Madagascar right now on the streets and in people's minds?
The feeling is actually a bit weird because today's atmosphere was both calm and tense. The town was almost deserted, hardly any traffic. Nearly all the shops, supermarkets, banks, restaurants are closed. Hundreds of security forces were still stationed at key locations in case the protests flare up again. So the mood remains fragile. Bear in mind that overnight there were widespread looting and attacks on shopping centers, and several people lost their lives. And members of Generation Z have called for the movement to continue.
There is a nighttime curfew in place, but that would have been my next question. Are the protests set to continue?
What the Gen Z announced on social networks is march on Saturday. So they are not really satisfied with the talk of the president, because he just talked to the population. So normally there should be another protest tomorrow.
I want to talk about the president in a second, but first let's look at the root causes of this. What triggered this unrest? Was it just about water and electricity, or is there something deeper simmering beneath the surface?
It started last week, actually, because some members of the opposition party wanted to organize a legal street protest, but it was banned by the authorities. And then the movement, the Generation Z took over, and then they started to launch this call for protest. But the problem of electricity cuts and power and water cuts in Madagascar is a long-standing issue. People have been suffering for that for years. Bear in mind that some people go for hours without electricity, without water. You go to work, you cannot wash, you cannot flush the toilets. You have to wake up at night because sometimes water is only flowing at night. So it's unbearable, and it's been years. So for years, people were silent, but now they decided that they don't want to be intimidated anymore.
Lawmakers have slammed the protests as a plot and an attempted coup d'etat. You mentioned social media, you mentioned Gen Z. What can you tell us about who organizes and who takes part in these protests?
What's interesting in this movement, it's new. I've never seen that in 15 years. It's mostly students, very young people. So that's why they call their movement Gen Z movement. And I haven't seen any political leader behind it. I haven't seen any political using of this. So it was mainly young people. But the tricky part of this movement is that at the end of the protest, at the end of the day on Thursday, protesters got more and more violent, and it looked like it was a different population because the Gen Z movement said they were a peaceful movement. They didn't want any violence. They don't want to do a putsch, a coup. They said they just wanted to be heard.
Yeah. The president has fired the energy minister after the protests. Do you expect that to make any difference?
According to what I've heard for the Gen Z from the Gen Z movement, they ask for change, for an actual change. And some of them told me that if this government stays in place, there won't be any change. So I'm not sure they are satisfied with this answer. The president said he's ready to meet them. He's ready to hear the reasons of the protest. But since they announced a new march for Saturday, I'm not sure the president's speech was that convincing for them.
That was journalist Gael Borja. Thank you so much for that update on these unprecedented protests in Madagascar.